Welcome, everyone. Taylor here as the host of the Focus Funnels podcast. We are super excited to be connecting with Erica, the founder of Gumball Poodle. This is an amazing brand. Their tagline, I love it, socks for every vice and any occasion. Erica, welcome. Thank you so much.
Hey, Taylor. Thank you so much for having me. I am I'm always excited to talk with you. So it's great to be here.
We're super pumped. You've got such good energy and really such a cool brand. And
thank you.
The way that you're doing stuff is very unique. And so I thought that the audience would love to hear your story. Mm-hmm. So why don't you start, where did this idea come from?
So it really came from two places, Taylor. My background pre-socks, before I ever thought about running my own business, having my own company, was in clothing and vintage clothes. And I actually own one of the world's largest collections of vintage rock t-shirts and wrote a book about them. It was the first book ever written about vintage rock t-shirts called Rock Tees. Anyway, so I have that t-shirt background. I love t-shirts and how expressive they are.
Yep.
So in 2008, everybody's really excited about that presidential election, what's going on here in the US.
Yeah.
I decided I really wanted Obama socks. I always wore shorts and knee socks at the time. Yeah. I thought, oh my gosh, of course somebody's going to have Obama socks because you could get toilet paper, bobbleheads, t-shirts, whatever, right?
Whatever.
Guess what? Nobody was making Obama socks. So,
of course they weren't.
Right? Being the weirdo that I am, I decided I should make them, right? Yeah. I want them. And if I have to make several thousand pairs, which is what I did have to do.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll find some way to unload the other 1,999 pairs. So I went ahead, I made the Obama knee socks, and it took off. I mean, we just got national press right out of the gate. People went wild for them. I did not at the time realize how incredibly lucky I was, how special that was. We were in all kinds of media, from the Oregonian to Mary Claire magazine. Wow. I went to the DNC with the socks. We were it was amazing. It was
That's so cool
moment. And so, after that election's over, Obama won.
Yeah.
I was like, that was really fun. And I have a few more ideas for socks. And it just has kind of snowballed for the past decade or so, from that one pair of Obama socks that was going to be a one-off little fun thing to this international brand. We have customers all over the world now.
That is so amazing. And what a great story.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, who wakes up saying, I want to be a sock entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Probably no one.
I maybe know one or two other people that thought about that too.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the Stance team.
Oh, well, that's true. And they started at the same time. So there was this moment, I think, where there were a few of us oddballs out there that were like, hey, wait a second. T-shirts were huge at that point. They're always big, but they were really huge then. And we're like, what else is like a t-shirt? And people wear it all the time. Hey, socks and socks. Nobody was doing socks.
No one was doing socks.
So boring. So Stance, Gumball Poodle. There's one other brand called Socksmith. We all started at the same time, and we're all still here. So, hey.
That's amazing. Well, and it's so cool because I think, as a kid growing up, here's a funny little tidbit about me. I always had colored socks growing up.
Really?
Yeah, I was always a colored socks guy. And people at that time, that was I was in elementary school during the 90s and then high school during the early 2000s. That wasn't cool. White socks were cool. That's what everyone wore, just plain. Yeah. And I had all these colored socks and people would be like, that is so why are you doing that? But I loved them. I thought they were super cool. So I just rocked them.
I love it. And that's what's great about socks is that they're so expressive about who you are, whether it's neon colors or polka dots or what we do, which is words and crazy sayings. And that's, you see how inventive is that? But really nobody did that before we did,
Yeah.
And
no, it's totally this cool thing.
There's something for everyone.
But what I do love about your company is that you've gone a little bit different approach. It is one, you've owned your identity, which I think is so important. But also tell us about your manufacturing. There's some unique pieces there.
Yeah, so we have since the very beginning done all of our manufacturing in the US.
So
And boy, is that an uphill battle. I wouldn't change it. There's so many reasons I love it. We from better quality control, faster turnaround times, but we work with much smaller margins than all of our competitors. I'm paying at least double what most of the competitors in the marketplace are paying.
Yeah.
So, it's the positives and the negatives, and you just have to get creative and figure things out. That's what I'm sure you'd agree. That's what being a business owner is all about. A founder is like, you just figure it out.
Yeah. we kind of have this saying inside Focus Funnels, like, if you don't love solving problems, do not be an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Like, because that's the only thing you do all day.
It is so
you wake up and you're like, well, what problems do I solve today?
So true.
And some problems literally come out of nowhere. You're like, whoa, did not see that coming.
And I think if you are able to stick around as an entrepreneur, it's because you don't get like totally ruffled and overwhelmed by those out of left field problems. It's just like, okay. We'll figure it out. Like that's what we're dealing with today.
I kind of always envision this queue of problems like in front of my business. And I'm just like, oh, you think you're in a more important problem? Get in line.
Yeah.
Like, you get in line. We'll get to you. We'll get to you.
I'm going to start visualizing them that way too. I like it. Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up about entrepreneurs and problem solving, because I was just listening to some comments from Ezra, from Smart Marketer.
Yeah.
Right. And he was talking about how you can be an entrepreneur as an employee. You can be an entrepreneur in the organization, because really being an entrepreneur is just being a problem solver.
Yeah.
So if you see something, figure it out, like come with the suggestions. And basically you are doing the exact same thing an entrepreneur does.
So Erica, I love that. How big is your team right now inside Gumball?
Ooh, good question. We're all remote now. So I think of everybody like one-on-one is a little more. So it's, what are we? 6, I believe.
So as you've scaled, right? One of the biggest challenges of running a business, whether it's remote or in person, is getting the right people on the bus.
For sure.
Right? Like getting the right people for the right role, and then trying to empower them so that, like you said, they can be mini entrepreneurs inside the business. What tips or advice have you learned along your journey?
Oh, dude, hiring is one of the toughest things for me still, because I like to look at people as like, I like you. You can do this. That's not always the case.
Sadly, yes.
Sadly, it isn't. The biggest things I could pass on to other bosses would be figure out what somebody's interests are. If you like them, they're working out well, figure out what their interests are, and then whether you have an immediate need for them to do that or not. Yeah, that's a problem you solve. Figure out how you get them doing what they like to do and how that's going to help your overall organization. Don't keep them off doing the things that they don't love because you don't exactly have a need for something that they're really interested in and really good at. Like, yes, get creative and how you utilize and encourage people, because then they're going to have more fun and they're going to like really shine. Yes. And of course, I'm not the first one to say this, but hire slowly and fire quickly. Like if it's not working out, it's not going to work out. And don't let, a relationship that isn't going the way you'd want it to ruin the mood in the entire organization. Yeah. Especially when you're a small team, that can really ripple quickly. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it can have huge impact. Impact. No, that is great advice. Yeah, a quick little story from our team that we've seen this happen is we recently hired on just this amazing human. She absolutely crushes. The original role that we hired her for, we brought her in and started training her. Like she was all for it, right? Doing the work, giving her best effort. But we could tell it just didn't really light her up in the morning. Yeah. Right? So we just started observing like what she was really into and the stuff that like where her strengths were really leaning towards. And
every time we would talk about organic social media, she had a lot of things to say.
Ooh.
When we were starting to talk about like paid, which is we do a lot of paid here at Focus Funnels, not as much to say, right?
Yeah.
So as we started like saying, hey, it seems like this is stuff you really like. And she's like, yeah, I'm super into this. We're like, well, how about, we need help running our organic media because, my team is relatively small. We're only 14.
Yep.
And we're like, we don't have quite the bandwidth to take this on ourselves, like especially my founder and I, like we're so busy. We're like, what if you did that? And we started to transition her into that role. And it was like night and day difference.
Wow.
She like lit up. She had so much to say. And it was like so proactive in that, like an entrepreneur in that. Whereas before, I think you're right. We weren't quite aligned. So just a fun little story of like looking and observing and being like, where do you want to fit in this?
Yep.
And how can I set that up to the maximum success?
Totally. I mean, and how exciting when you find a way to like let somebody shine and really get in their groove that way. It's fun just to watch them go then. You know?
Well, and the idea is like, even in the first couple of weeks of her running this new role, the ideas, the momentum, the stuff that she was bringing to the table was way better than what my partner and I were thinking about. Like we were thinking at like level 5 and she's like up here at level 10 and we're like, wow, that's a great idea. We would have never thought of that.
Isn't that what like also a good leader does? It's you hire people who are better than you at things and you recognize their talents and you let them run with them and don't try to be like, since I'm the boss, I know everything, right?
I know. Yeah. That's, it can be humbling.
Yeah.
Like, I think good leadership is all about self-awareness and just a little bit of humility, being like, man, I don't have all the answers, but I know as a team, we can figure this out.
Yep.
Like this is not an unsolvable problem.
There's no unsolvable problems.
It's a good point. I love that. That is the key line of this whole podcast.
Absolutely. There aren't. I always come back to one of my kind of mentors has always told me, look at what you already have and figure out how you're not utilizing that enough. Maybe you're utilizing it a little bit. Maybe you're not utilizing it at all, but you probably have everything you need to get to the next level. You don't need to necessarily like run out and spend 50 grand on some new equipment or get that like fancy new office space or whatever it is you think you have to hit the next level. It's like, you can probably find just what you need with what you already have. And then when you get to the next level, wow, you're going to be doing great.
I love that. That's such good advice because I think as founders, and we fall prey to this all the time, is like, we just fall prey to marketing.
Yep.
And I say that as a marketing agency, but like one of the things that happens is we think that this next shiny object will take us to that next level.
Yes.
And 9 times out of 10, it's not. Right.
Yeah.
It's figuring out, okay, how do we leverage or lean into the stuff that's working really well right now and focus on our core mission, our core offering, maybe our core product, and how do we take that and scale it? As opposed to getting distracted and trying to be like, okay, well, I'm doing socks. Well, now I'm going to do underwear.
Yeah.
And, now I'm going to do hats. Because if you wear socks, you're going to wear a hat and like, and then the brand gets diluted. And right. So I think focus and what you said right there is like, a lot of times you have what you need. You just need to better utilize it.
Yep. Totally agree.
Tell me about the last 2 years, right?
Oof.
The last 2 years have been really challenging for literally every business owner, no matter how did you get through that? How did you innovate?
So last 2 years were an incredible growth experience that in a weird way, I'm very thankful for.
I love that.
When COVID hit, my business was primarily wholesale based, not direct to consumer. That was a teeny tiny thing we hadn't really done much of. I know you're like going,
Don't tell me that, Erica.
I know. So anyway, I watched my business drop by over 90%.
Oh my gosh.
At the end of March, just all these orders were getting canceled, because all our retailers were closed. And that really felt like the end of the world. It's like, I'm going to lose everything. Oh my goodness, whatever. So came from a very dark spot in that like March, April of 2020
Oh,
to slowly digging our way out of that, learning about direct to consumer more, focusing more efforts on that, and getting back to like bare bones. Stop being distracted by all these other like things you could be doing.
right.
Focus on what you do well. The team that you have, they're so talented. Like, let's just be really, really focused on the fundamentals. I was very fortunate. I have some really good friends that are also business owners. I had an amazing network, and we kind of got each other through those first couple of months, just like knowing that other people were thinking and feeling the same way, and maybe struggling with the same things, and brainstorming stuff together. So after that like dark period, we realized we could operate really lean. We could, we had a kind of wonderful value prop in being made in the USA, which, used to be such a difficult thing for us because of those much lower margins. Well, hey, now I actually have product in stock, and nobody else does.
It's incredible.
So we ended up coming out of this a lot stronger than we went into it. And I learned a lot about myself, I think, too. It just being an entrepreneur has changed my personality, right? I am a very type A person. And when I started this thing, I could get upset really fast and be very like, lose my temper. I am like night and day, different person. I don't lose my temper anymore, Taylor. Like, we got through COVID. It doesn't matter. It's like, we're here. It's all good. Like, you can figure it out. And so,
I love that.
That's my big takeaway. It's just like, ride the wave. I don't surf, you surf, but I ride the wave. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think that comes with maturity and experience.
Yeah.
And realizing that you can do hard things.
Yep.
And like what you said earlier is like, no problem's unsolvable.
Right.
Right. And that doesn't come from a place of being naive. It comes from a place of empowerment.
Yes.
Where you're saying, you know what? I don't know what the next problem that's going to come to the doorstep, but when it does, we're going to be able to look at eye to eye and figure it out.
Yes. Oh,
and that's
better than I do.
Well, that's really cool. Cause that's, I think, aside from running a business, I think that's the journey of life. Mm-hmm. Is getting that self-awareness and that confidence in yourself and what you're doing, because it comes from some of those hard knocks. And the faster that people can learn those lessons or extract those lessons from other people, even if they don't have that confidence, like almost borrow a little bit of your confidence and kind of use that as their fuel to get through the first couple months or years or whatever of their journey.
For sure.
I think
I do hope no other entrepreneurs have to go through what we all went through over the past 2 years.
Yeah. Gosh. Totally. Yeah. I hope, but you never know.
You never do.
Like the world is a weird place and there's a lot of things moving and you can't see what the future holds. You just put on your shoes and go for it.
Exactly.
So as you look into this next year, I mean, Gumball's been growing a lot, both direct to consumer and wholesale. What are you super excited about?
I am super excited about getting even more focused and cutting away even more fat and distractions and those shiny objects, because boy, they are always popping up. It's always like, ooh, that would be fun, but just double down on what we know how to do and do it better. So I do want to expand in socks. I mean, we've always been, that's kind of one of our hallmarks as a brand. We've really innovated and done some things that no other brands did style wise. Well, I think it's time that we innovate again. So that's what I'm getting excited about. Like, how can we outsock all the other brands?
Yes, I love that. Mm-hmm. And I think the value prop of not only like the personality that the brand brings to the table is huge, but I also love the made in the USA thing.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, like, I have a huge distrust of China, just in general.
That is not unfounded.
Like they're not exactly pro USA.
No.
And it's like, and yet we rely on them so much for
Oh
the
my gosh.
majority
Mhm.
of the goods that we wear and that we have in our houses.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
there's so much opportunity here in the US, and that I'm hoping that US manufacturing continues to evolve,
Yes.
to be better and more on
Yes.
top of it and more efficient, so they can continue to cut costs and be
Yes.
able to almost compete with the China of the world. It's
Mhm.
hard to do because they like literally rely on slave labor, but I,
Yes. Thank
yeah,
you. Yes.
hard to, but anyways, that's beside the point. But it's like doubling down on American investment. And I think the consumer really
Mhm.
cares about that.
Man, I hope you're right. It's I mean, we definitely have customers that love us for being made in the USA. But I think we have even more customers that love us for quality and the quality we produce. And my philosophy coming into this, and this also goes back to before I was doing socks and before I thought about having my own business, I hate cheap stuff.
Yeah.
And by cheap, I don't mean that it costs not very much or that it's like super pop culture, disposable fun things, but just, I don't like things that just get tossed in a landfill. Like, and so much of our culture is that way. Right. And my background in vintage clothes that's stuff that's worn by, been in how many different closets, right? Clothes that just keep going. So I'm not advocating that people buy used socks, but I would like more socks out there to last more than 2 washes. So Gumball Poodle socks, we're in it for the long haul, for you and for the company, and the earth. Like, made in the USA, you're getting a lot of things, not slave labor, better environmental. It's not, much better environmental practices than some foreign countries' production. And you're supporting if not your immediate local economy, your local economy.
Yeah, I know, 100%. And I absolutely love that. And like, as I think as a country, as we continue to grow and expand and figure ourselves out, I think relying more inside our borders is super valuable.
So for sure. It's the United States used to have a huge textile industry. Really got decimated in the 90s. Most of that production, including socks, went to Asia, and we didn't just ship the production, we shipped the machinery to Asia. Like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But this coming decade, I think, is going to be all about innovation on every level. Technology changing things, but we need to start making the machines and understanding how to fix the machines ourselves.
Totally. Yeah, kind of get back to that that kind of can-do American spirit, which I'm a big fan of. I love that. So innovation coming for you as a brand as you start to maybe expand into some other stuff. We're super excited to see that happen. So last thing as we wrap things up here, you've been doing this for a couple of years, right? A lot of lessons learned. What advice would you give someone that's starting on this journey, or at least is relatively new to the e-commerce world?
So, I mean, definitely my first advice is always just do it. Don't think about it. If you're kind of like, oh, I think I want to start a business, or I think I want to try this out, but I need to have a business plan, but I need to get funding. I need to. No, you don't need to do any of those things. You need to go to the farmer's market and try to sell your widget, right? Or you need to just set up that website and start selling your service, and then you figure it out as you go. I would say finding a community also, whatever it is. And your friends and family that you have now are great, and they're always going to be important to you, but having a business community of other owners, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, whatever it is that you can talk business with, because this is going to become your life. Don't think that there's going to be work-life balance. That's not even the right way to think about it. It's like work-life integration, but they're going to be so melded together. You are going to be thinking about your business all the time. You're going to need people that understand that mentality, and it might not always be your friends and family. It's going to be your new business friends and family. So find them wherever they are, whether it's a social media group or working with an agency. Like, you guys have a community that you've built that kind of does that, which is so cool.
That's a big part of our offering, is that just a shameless plug for Focus Funnels is, when you become an agency client, you get access to our mastermind group.
That's
and
amazing.
we meet a couple times a week, and it's almost like open office hours.
Mm-hmm.
And any of our founders or the people in their team can join these office hours and talk about their business.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be marketing. We talk about customer service. We talk about fulfillment. We talk about systems and processes. Sometimes it's just a time to sit down and be like, geez, this is really hard.
And that is so valuable because it is hard. And I think people underestimate how lonely it can be.
Yeah.
And that whole time consuming, it is your life. And you might get to a point where you can balance it a little bit better. But if you're starting something, it is.
Yeah.
It is all the time. Yeah.
Yes, it's all the time. Yeah.
And so what you're offering people, I think is super rad. I would have been all about it when I was starting out. Things like that, as far as I know, didn't exist 10 years ago.
Yeah, so. It's kind of a unique thing. But
mm-hmm.
I love what you said about, and I think balance is the wrong word, because balance indicates it's like 50-50, right? And it's never that way. Like in life, nothing's ever like 50-50. I had someone tell me the other day that they were like, this was an adult saying, it's not fair.
What?
I didn't even know how to respond to that. I was like, what has ever been fair, ever, anywhere? Like
such a good point. It's like, don't go, like nothing is ever fair. It just
so anyways, that's so sidebar, but we have this idea here at Focus Funnels of harmony.
Ooh, I like that.
And harmony is like is music. You've got some really high notes and you got some really low notes, but it's like, how do you balance those?
Yes.
And a song is never static.
No.
Right? It's always evolving and like, there's like really energy, and then there's like that moody and depression or the sadness, mm-hmm. and then you kind of come to a middle zone, and then there's like harmony. I think is the right word.
I think harmony is such a good word, and those low notes that you end up hitting that are inevitable, we all hit them. You get so much out of them over time, and they make yours. I'm going to be cheesy and continue your analogy. They make your song so much better.
Yes.
And they make listening to it more interesting. They make playing the, your career way more interesting. And what can you take away from this? So.
Oh, I love that perspective. That's incredible. That's a perfect analogy to wrap everything up. So thank you so much for your thoughts. Like, it was so cool to hear your story and a lot of so many gems that we're able to extract from this.
Well, thanks, Taylor. It's always fun to talk with you. And, I love talking business all the time.
That's amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much, Erica. We really appreciate you.
Take care.